up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy D Dyson. Blonde on Netflix. A story of Marilyn Monroe. I would not call this a biopic. Directed by Andrew Dominic, starring anadearmas as Norma Jean. Just seeing the life of Marilyn Monroe. This is based off a book, and just I look at it in terms of anadearmas' performance, which was very stellar. Stellar performance by anadearmas as Norma Jean or Marilyn Monroe. But just looking at it, like, I felt like the direction was very convoluted, and just pacing was just it was very messy. Hard to understand. You didn't know if Marilyn Monroe was auditioning for a role, or is she talking to someone, or is she living in her head? And you just didn't know. And that's why I was telling myself, I'm like, this is very hard to watch. And on top of just being it convoluted, you have these very intense and cruel scenes, like from a kid when she's getting beat by her mother, and when they're going to the Hollywood Hills and it's on fire, and it's very intense. And then it's her mother trying to drown her and kill her. Then she runs, and it's like you don't know what happened after that. You run to the next door neighbor, they take her to the orphanage, and then she's Marilyn Monroe. So I was like, what happened? And it goes into when Marilyn Monroe was, quote unquote, taken advantage of, raped, or and that is very cringy to watch, very cringy. And she started getting like acting roles, so I wasn't sure if that was a director or studio head, or I don't know, I know, like her agent, who I don't know. So that's why I was telling myself, but it was very cringy to watch. And what made it get to that, we don't know. That's why I was kind of like, oh, that took me all the way out of it. I was like, it started, fairly like, okay, what's going on? Like, this must be her upbringing and how she was, but it just jumped all that. So after that, I was like, okay, it kind of took me out of the movie. And you fast forwarding, and she, it's just back and forth. Again, it's you don't know if she's auditioning, she's living in her head, she's looking for her father. She's using all that to be in roles, and then it jumps to when she's a premiere of one of her movies, and it was just very messy. And I was telling myself, I'm like, okay, it's like that for the better part. And this movie is like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 15, 2 hours, 20, 30, 40 minutes. And I'm like, it's like that basically throughout the half of the movie. And then it's like the second half of the movie, you meet this male figure. Now, I didn't even know if this was Joe DiMaggio or not. Like, that's how bad this was. Like, I was like, are you going to, forgot the actor's name, like, I think his last name is Kleinville, something like that, Kleinville. But you didn't know if he was Joe DiMaggio or who he was. You just, you didn't know until afterwards, where, he starts abusing her, that, oh yeah, I wouldn't see that. Someone had commented, like, I wouldn't see that coming from an athlete. And I was like, so that was Joe DiMaggio. So I was telling myself, I'm like, it was just crazy. And then you fast forward, it's like you go into these scenes where, all of a sudden she started taking drugs, and she ends up with Adrian Brody's character. I forgot the guy's name. And she's, again, taking drugs. And then you go into the fact that she's messing with the president. And again, another cringy scene of, JFK is like, come here. And it was just cringy. And even afterwards, she goes to the bathroom, and it's hard for her to pee. And I was like, very cringy. And I was like, this is such a waste of a good performance from anadearmas. I felt like with Marilyn Monroe, I didn't think that this movie should have been it to push her to the masses, to this new generation. Like, I feel like they did a discredit to her, a dishonor to Marilyn Monroe, because I was looking for a huge biopic of, I get that, she was very, tormented, very trauma, but you could have pushed the highlights and positives of that as well. And they didn't show that in here. That's why I was so upset. Like, this is who people are supposed to be iconic and idolize. It never showed any of that. It just always showed that she hated being Marilyn Monroe. She hated the limelight, all these things, which, like I said, from a dimension or for a point of view, yeah, that might have been true, but you still never highlighted all the good stuff that she's done, you know, for her to be such a iconic person in Hollywood. Never did it. And soon after that, it goes into, she's, you know, kind of like, she awake, is she dreaming? Like I said, you don't know. You know, now it's and it's so rushed that, oh, they did like some kind of rush abortion, like, you know, CIA, Fed, Secret Service came in, got her, and, you know, she's back at home, and someone sends her a box, and she just takes all these drugs and presumably dies. So that's why I was telling myself, the great thing about this, I did Google Marilyn Monroe's house, and they do have the address. So they did shoot that ending scene where she died. They still have that house, and they shoot it at the actual house. So I was telling myself, whoever owns that house, whoever lives in that house, that must be haunted. Has to be haunted, you know. And that was like the takeaways I had from this. I really give this like a 4 out of 10. Just upsetting that anadearmas' performance was underappreciated, that she had delivered on Marilyn Monroe, but not in this fashion, not in this movie. I feel like should have been a really good biopic of Marilyn Monroe, who she was, but this is not it. Was not it. It was very cringy and hard to get through, but got through it, and I was kind of like, man, I wish I can kind of got 2.5 hours of my life back. But like I said, anadearmas kept me glued to the screen, but it just, the direction was not moving it for me, was not doing it, and I really hated just the story of how they had it. Very messy. Very messy. So, you guys enjoyed my review of Blonde on Netflix. Subscribe to my channel. Post comment down below and like the video. It's your boy, D Dicey. Peace.